But
good people?
I don't know the
What we
history
doing
like you
right
know
now
it, or they
is
don't know it like you
we're
know
gonna
it.
go through
So
a
we
little
need to
history
hear from
lesson
you, brother.
right
What
fast.
is the real deal about Christopher Columbus in America at that time and the Native American Indians? I seen they had the natives on the Breakfast Club today, so it was only right that I have you on my network as well. So explain to people who the hell Christopher Columbus was and his relatives' relationship to the natives.
See, because when you think about everything that the kids are being taught in school, it's all the bullshit that's gonna rule them by as they grow up into adults. They're never taught to know who the creator is in them. They was always taught to believe in some kind of deity outside of them. And like I said again, this is the bullshit that got y'all caught up in with religion. Until you know who the creator is in you, you will never be a creator too, because you'll be holding yourself back by not knowing the truth. Because you're believing in some bullshit. You already know it because you feel it too. Because the truth is already in you. It's embedded in your DNA. When you was given life, you was given free will. You couldn't do none of these things as a kid because you were still feeling out going into what's straight. It's what you're doing. When you're something that's straight, you can feel the love of doing it. And you're doing it with the love of material for everybody to use it all for free. Not wanting nothing in return but the people to be happy and peaceful. It is what it is with me, people. The truth is the truth. Period. Fuck all this bullshit. Cause we living for the bullshit. And when I say we living for the bullshit, it's all the things that y'all living to get is the bullshit. Because when you think about this bullshit that we was taught to believe in God and Jesus and never was taught to believe in ourselves, how can you ever really know the creator if you don't know yourself? You have to care more about people that you don't know. And definitely to care more about nature and clean up around yourself. That's what you would want to do. It's time for eyes and get to really know you so you can show the creator that's inside of you how much love that. Do what you do. But in this circle of life, whatever you do good comes back around to you. Whatever you do bad and know you do comes back to you 2 to 4 times more on you. You just be prepared for it to come back. Let's finish this.
So first I want to say, Welagoon Tawakin, OCO, OI, peace to all the indigenous families, America, Turtle Island, South America, Turtle Island, and all the indigenous lands all over the planet. When Christopher Columbus, we're talking about a fragmented period in history that, unless you understand a much bigger scope, you're not really going to see what was there. Up here we talk about Columbus didn't find this and we raised hell, we saw these memes go around. But what we have to understand is from the perspective of the European and from a perspective of a certain class of Europeans, Columbus did discover America. The problem is we were conquered by those Europeans. You know, this is all the product of integration. Prior to integration, prior to them controlling our school systems, right? We wasn't teaching our kids about no Columbus. We was teaching our children about how to till the land. You know what I mean? We was teaching them rituals. We was teaching them things about culture. See, culture is functional. It's not a history lesson. You know what I mean? So when we talk about Christopher Columbus, you have to understand that we're talking about him from the perspective of the European. So did Columbus discover what we call America? Yes, he did, for a certain class of European. Now, to truly understand Columbus and what is going on here, you got to go way back to the fall of Rome. I'm not going to be real long about it, but you're 476 or so, Rome fell, right? Rome controlled all of Western Europe, all those areas. When 480, remember that date, 480, what they did was the government removed themselves from the territory. So I liken that to right now, the United States, the government folded and disappeared. All the infrastructures would still be in place. You still have City Hall, you still have your local government, you still have all these things. So when Rome left Western Europe, Roman law left with them, but everything that was put in place already stayed. So what I'm saying is you had people who would set up fiefdoms. Fiefdoms are same thing as a plantation, right? So on that fiefdom, you have a king. Think of the sheriff of Nottingham and all that stuff. So you have a king who collects debt from the people who live on his land. So after Rome pulled out, you still had these families who owned land. They stayed. So 1,000 years went by, and what happened is, this brings you up to 1491. Now this is starting to sound familiar to people. 1,000 years go by, you have the indigenous people of Iberia living alongside the descendants of the Romans. The descendants of the Romans are the ones who are wealthy and own the lands, right? So after 1,000 years, the descendants of the Romans offer the Iberians, the indigenous people of the land, $17 million. Offer them $17 million. It's all documented, right? $17 million for the land rights. So that would be basically what you would call your deeds. So in 1491, the last Moorish Caliphate of Spain sold his kingdom, and I'm gonna be exact for you because I went, last time I was on here, I was kind of coming off the top. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to my notes so I can give you the stuff exactly. All right. So his name is Caliph Abdullah el-Zaghal, Zaghal, was the last king of the Moorish Empire of Spain and ruled through 1491 AD. Okay, who sold his kingdom to Queen Elizabeth I in 1491 for $17 million. You can reference this, first appeared in the Ripley's Believe It or Not, which is an actual book. It's sort of like what the Almanac was, you know what I mean? We know it from a television show, but before that it was an actual documented book that recorded history. So this information can also be accessed in a book called Time Walkers. Now what happened was, when the Moorish Caliphate sold the land rights to Queen Isabella, she now had jurisdiction over the land. She also had treaty rights, which is why no European had traveled to the Americas prior to 1491, because without treaty rights, you don't have access to other kingdoms, right? So once Isabella bought the rights to the land, she got the treaty rights that went along with it. Those treaty rights, no, that land being Spain. The indigenous people of Spain had treaties with the indigenous people of the Americas, right? So once she gained the treaties, the land rights, she could now send Christopher Columbus to the Americas in 1492. Now, we got the documents. I got all the documents. I got everything. I have a 4-hour documentary that goes through all of this, all right? So at that point is when they started putting their money together to send Columbus to the Americas. Now, the log in the official records of the Kingdom of Spain at the time, it's all recorded, right? So they have, within a 2-month span, they have the entry of the sale, and then they have the entry of Columbus within a 2-month period. It's damn near on the same page, right? You can see this stuff all on YouTube. I've accessed all this information in various little videos you can find on YouTube. You just gotta know how to find it. So at this point, she now had the right to send somebody overseas, and that person would not be pirated. See, prior to that, we hear about the pirates and how the Moors were pirating people. But what they don't understand is that you only got pirated if you didn't have the proper paperwork. Even today, that'll happen. If you don't have the proper paperwork to be traveling places, you can't go, right? So now, when we talk about these treaties, certain artifacts are representative of these treaties. One of the
Ain't that something when you think about this shit? You can say to yourself, wow, a long time ago, somebody decided that they was gonna be able to hold a fucking thumb on every human here on earth by making them have to get identification for shit, such as living free here on this earth. Now, I say with conscious thinking people like the people that was conscious thinking back in the beginning of time, they was loving people that had to run from these evil people that got their fucking thumb on our motherfucking mind. So, those of you who are thinking with the thinking that was taught to you how to think with, you was taught to believe in the bullshit that you are stuck in. It's time to get out of the box. You're in a four-corner box that you put the lid on yourself because you didn't understand, understand. You didn't get when that Bible said, as a child, you think as a child and you play with childish things. Some of y'all are still thinking as children. Some of y'all still believe in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. So I know y'all easily believing in God and Jesus is the creator. No, the creator is love. The creator is one way to create between a man and a woman. Everything else is just put there. But man was created to be a conscious thinking worker bee for the queen bee to be here. Man was created to make sure that he creates everything for that queen bee to have to be here until it's time for that man to come in heaven. Literally come in heaven with coming together with that woman, literally in the creator's name, not in God's name, in the creator's original name, love making, to create one of the same, another human like themselves. I could have said another human being and make it rhyme, but fuck all that shit. I'm not here to waste no fucking time. I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here for you to find you and to make you a better you without these stipulations of this God and Jesus bullshit. The creator is in you to be a creator too, but you have to know some shit. And the shit to know is you don't believe when you creating something to last. You create that there and take time out to make sure that it lasts by taking the time to create it straight, not one of the rights, because it's two rights. That's right and that can be right because man put it in a book saying it was right, but it could be wrong. So you might think that if you creating this product not to last long, you'll sell more products when people have to buy more. That's fucked up way of thinking. That's not thinking like the creator created you to do. And that's what straight, not what's right or left or backwards, was straight for the whole circle to use for free, not with no material motive or how much you're going to get for it. So like I said
that's
again,
representative of these treaties would be the first 5 books of the Bible. So certain religious artifacts, all these things are examples of a treaty. I'll give you an example. When you go to the museums here in New York, Brooklyn, Manhattan, you'll see all these Egyptian artifacts. Those are all results of treaties. It's not that somebody stole something. There were agreements made between the countries, and those are part of the overall agreements. You give somebody a gift when you enter into a treaty with them. This is why we have the Tekken sitting in Central Park, because these are all a part of treaties between nations. Now, did Kemet give the Tekken to New York? No, they did not. But Kemet was under the jurisdiction of European nations who gave the Tekken. You understand? So this is all dealing with international treaties, right? So once Christopher Columbus was able to come to the Americas, he was able to engage in what they call He was searching for resources. That's all it really was. He was coming here for resources because you have to understand that in Spain at the time, right, the Moors have been ruling for 700 years, 800 years.
Damn.
After the fall of Rome, the Goths came in, the different Gothic tribes came in, and they were the Vandals, people we call Vandals and things like that. They came in, and at 710, certain delegates from what we call Iberia, and that would be certain Christian groups, certain Jewish groups, set for the Moors to come to Iberia to put smack down on the Europeans, and that brings us up to the Moorish rule from 711 to 1492, which fell after the signing of this agreement. Now, there are many educated scholars who speak on this. It's just that we don't study these aspects of our history. So all this sounds foreign and crazy to people, but I can validate all this via paperwork and things of that nature. So when we talk about Columbus, he discovered America for a certain group of Europeans, certain nations that didn't have access to the world prior to 1491. When Columbus arrived in the Americas, right, he didn't come to mainland North America. He arrived at the Caribbean islands, right? When Columbus described the people he saw, he described them as what you would say Negro. But every Columbus Day, they will show you a picture of an amalgamated Native American from the Western Territories talking about what Columbus did to their people. Columbus never met their people, never touched their people. Columbus dealt with the tribes in the Caribbean. The first tribes to be assaulted were the tribes in the Caribbean and on the East Coast and in South America. None of these were these amalgamated tribes that we see in the Midwest. None of them. They did not come into contact with the European until decades later. I got all the information right here. Honestly, I don't feel like going into who are they descendants of? They will be descendants of the Mongoloids that migrated here over the Bering Strait. They would also be descendants of the early Irish that migrated here. You understand? If any of you would like to, just go Google Chief John Ross. Chief John Ross was the chief that led the Cherokee on the Trail of Tears. Chief John Ross was Irish. Chief John Ross, who was he served 3 terms, and based on the rules of the government, you can only serve 2 terms. Sounds real familiar, right? So, but he served 3 terms, and the 3rd term was the term that he led all of the amalgamated natives out to Oklahoma. Because you have to understand that when you come into territories, right, you have to set up, even other tribes, when they migrate into territories, they have to enter into an agreements with those tribes, right? So there will be a hierarchy on the land. So the Cherokees migrated into what we call Lenapehoking or New Jersey in the 1700s. And they had to enter into a treaty with the Lenape, right? So what you have is automatic, they fall into line in the government. Chief John Ross was a Cherokee, right? So in order for him to lead his people to another land, you understand? He didn't have jurisdiction over the actual Lenape. So who did he lead west? See what I'm saying? Because he wasn't Lenape, right? Who did he lead west? He led the amalgamated Cherokee, who history teaches us about, right? But the ancient Cherokee, who would be the Anyawea or the Kituwa, right? These are the people that look like me and you, and who have also been written out of history. You know what I'm saying? These are the ancient people, which is why you will see these amalgamated Indians, they'll call themselves Cherokee, right? Which comes from the term Shalaki, right? They will call themselves that, but they won't call themselves Kituwa. It's the same reason a European will call himself South African, but he won't call himself Zulu. Because it's a real title. It's not a foreign title. It's not an exonym that was placed on the people by foreigners. See, America that's a foreign term. So even when people show you maps and go, look, oh, this place was called such and such, they're showing you foreign maps. So I don't care if the map is from 1492.
It's a foreign map.
If it's not an indigenous map that uses the indigenous terms of the land, It's a foreign map. So when people go, look, oh, this is a map of America, North America from the 1500s, and look, it says, it says Morocco, it says this, it says that. No, that's because the people who created that map were foreigners applying foreign terms to the land. Each nation has its own language, its own terms for its land. Many of the nations didn't call the same piece of land the same thing because we're many different people. So this whole concept of Columbus, he didn't discover it for us. He discovered it for those people. You know what I mean? The problem is we have been educated by them, and because we've been educated by them, we think that their truth is our truth. Just like when we talk about Jesus and Christ, right? We talk about white Jesus. But we can go to any church in Europe and you're going to see what? You're going to see a black Madonna and a black baby Jesus. Why is that? Because prior to the propaganda being spread by the painting of Michelangelo, all Europeans thought Jesus was what? Black. They knew he was, right? So when they launched launched their propaganda to paint him white, that was to uplift their own people, right? That was never meant for our ear, never meant for us. It was up to uplift their own people because every nation deserves, a God in its own likeness, right? So they started taking our concepts and applying them to themselves.
See, like you just said, our concept. No, it's no one's concept when the creator is the love in the beginning of them being created. What I mean by the love of the beginning of you being created, isn't it ironic inside the womb, your beginning of you being here is inside the womb as the shape of a heart? That's your start. That first beat, the vibration, that feeling, that touch, that spark, the creativity in each and every human being here consciously thinking. The creativity in the human is the creator of the human for the human to be a creator themselves. There's nothing outside of you to worship. There's only the hell that you put yourself in, because heaven is between that man and that woman coming together in the creator's original name, love making, to create one of the same of each other, when they literally, positive and negative, come together. That's heaven, baby. Everything on the outside of what I just told you, what the man and the woman was created to do, is bullshit. It's bullshit by some man's own fucking imagination. I died after giving up on life, but not committing suicide to be given life back. To be here telling you the truth and be able to explain to you in detail how it all happened for me to know these facts. It is what it is, people. When you sit there and you don't know, you're afraid of dying because you don't know where you're going to go. But when you die, that's just another transformation. You are in the circle of life as long as this circle goes round. It's all about the good of knowing what's straight and righteousness, and the love that you put down is where you end up in the afterlife. I know not to have to believe in the bullshit that y'all believe in, because y'all was taught to believe in the bullshit that y'all believe in, to the point where y'all don't know. Y'all just believing in the bullshit that y'all was taught to. But I know the power is all in you. I know who the creator is of all life and what you see and what you do. I know that the creator gave you life, gave you the free will to will your life wherever you will. for free. But to know embedded in your DNA is reciprocity and empathy. 4 pillars of life to feel right, to go along with your 5 fingers on your one hand with 19 bones in it. To know what's right or wrong, because you can feel, because you're living in it. And the creator is the divine that's always on your mind. But the creator would never make you do nothing without your free will. Because if the creator was to make you do anything by taking your free will, would that make the creator divine? You start thinking for yourself and get out that box that you closed on yourself when you're not realizing. Now that you are a full-blown adult, it's time for you to reboot the original computer, which is your brain, and start to reprocess everything that you was taught as a kid. Because I see this one here, and then I put a lid on it. You was lied to at birth when you was given birthday, when it was your mama's birthday and you was just born an empty glass waiting for some truth, and you was lied to on your first day being here. I'm just saying.
The shit got out of hand because we are slaves of slaves, right? Because we were enslaved by slaves. We end up picking up on the concepts that these individuals adhere to. And this is why we are sitting up here talking about there's no white Jesus, and we're not. There never was a white Jesus. Jesus was always portrayed as being an original man.
So I got one question for you, brother. We about to get started with the red pill lecture aside. Do you, from your study of history, are you upset at the indigenous Moors who sold off their land to the Europeans, or to the Europeans, like you said, the last brother that sold it off in 1491? Do you look at that as when you look at modern history and you see the blacks that leave their community and sell their community for dirt cheap, and then the quacks come and make it into something big? Do you look at it as that same mindset? Can you understand why we did what we did at that time? Does it make any sense to you? And the reason why I ask that is because you hear so many bad things about the Moors being traitors and all that. So talk on that, brother.
It's definitely a good question. A lot of people talk about the Moors are traitors and this and that, and I always ask people, what Moors are you talking about? You know what I mean? Because we got to be specific. Like I said, when we talk about Moors, we're talking about, that's a general term used for a wide range of people. So I'm able to give you the name of the actual caliphate that started the ball rolling in terms of giving these people access to the world. Now, do I think it was done with the intention of all this happening? Of course not. You know what I mean? These individuals were under attack at the time, you know what I'm saying? And it's almost like, well, we're about to be conquered. If we can make something out of it, let's make something out of it. You know what I mean? So he sold the kingdom. Now, I mean, not knowing that they were going to use that the way they did. You know what I mean? But even when we talk about people selling out and stuff, I always tell people the devil is in the details, because you never know how the next generation or even your children are going to deal with what you set up for them. Now, I mean, so it's hard to say, are they betraying us? I don't think they're betraying us no more than the African that comes here and sets up stores, just like the Indian, just like the Jew, just like anybody else that sets up the stores on our corners and exploits us and then goes back to Africa. I don't think the Moors are exploiting us any more than Akon, who came here, got rich off of us, then went and bought his people electricity, and the whole world is celebrating it. You know what I'm saying? I'm no more offended by that than, you know what I'm saying, because it's the way of the world, it's the way things are, it's the way it's business. We take everything personal.
Now, did you hear what that young fella just said? That young fella said something that all people should take heed to. We're in a business. The United States is a corporation. We are nothing but product if we allow ourselves to be product. It's time for you to not be then shut up. It's time for you to speak up. because this is some bullshit. Everything was created for us to enjoy from the creator of everything. And the creator created us all out of love of us having everything. For nobody to be struggling like they are. This is man made up bullshit. Because the creator is always gonna be one way by the original name. Loving to create something of the same out of the creator's original name. Love, wanting it to last just as well as you love for that feeling of love in you when you love and that next person next to you, because that person next to you is your better half. I'm just saying. Truth is the truth, period. Fuck all the bullshit. And the bullshit is right after the truth. And the truth is what man and woman was created to do. And that's come together. Literally. In heaven. As creating the creator name. Love. Make it. I'm just saying.
Shit was business. You know what I'm saying? The Moors that went up into Spain, that wasn't their land anyway. They was asked to come up there to, bring about order. You know what I mean? So, did they think all this was going to happen? No. You know what I mean? Do I hold them accountable, responsible? No. I mean, do I hold that individual responsible? And his caliphate, his government? Sure, we can hold them responsible, but is that all the Moors in existence? No. You know what I mean? It's just...
And I'm stop it again to say this. See, for any individual to have copyrights to stop someone from sharing what is the truth, I can understand and overstand and understand them not wanting someone's copyright to be exploited to being a lie if it's a lie. But if it's the truth and a person is bunny hopping on the truth to get the truth out to the people, to get the truth, anyone that wants to mute or take that person's video off don't want the truth to be out there. That's why I tell you guys, whenever I come on here, piggyback riding on someone else's truth, that's because I feel that their truth is part of what I know is true, or I wouldn't be piggybacking on it and not saying something on it if it wasn't. So like I'm saying to you right now, people, it's time for you to get out of the groove that you was put in. It's time for you to stop thinking how you was taught to think in it. It's time for you to stop believing Santa Claus and the bunny rabbit. I'm sorry. That's the truth.
Like, many of us have relatives that fought for the United States, right? I got an uncle that recently passed, but he was a part of the Wherewith 11. If you don't know who the Wherewith 11 is, you need to do your history. Because there's an all-black troop that was captured in Germany and they were massacred. My uncle, who just recently died less than a year ago, was one of the 2 survivors. It's a documentary about it and everything, right? Now, do I look at him because he was a sellout, because he was fighting for the government? You know what I mean?
No, he
I
didn't
still
know.
look at him as a hero.
Yeah, because he didn't know.
You know what I mean? Do I agree with his stance and his position? No, but at the time when...
Because I see it like this. Because this what makes this different, because I'm not taking nothing that these brothers are saying. I'm just adding to what they're saying. Some more truth to go along with some of their truth that they know. I'm not going with the things that they believe in. I'm going with the things that they know. And you can tell the difference between the things that a person knows and the things that a person believes in. So I say it like this. I've been saying that I despise you soldiers that's killing innocent people and know that you're doing it just because of your orders. How would you like if that shoe was on the other foot and someone else was giving the same orders? To those of you that believe in God and Jesus and that bullshit, and believe in the devil and hell and that bullshit too, one thing about the Creator will never, ever, 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 ever harm you. You are the creation. The creator is always creating love. Always that one spark of that one way. You created that right and that wrong in those ways to create. Like I say again, the creator is only one. God is many. And then you got in God we trust is on money. And some people got plenty. But someone got dirty water. Do that sound right? Do that sound like that's of the creator? That's all of this God and the devil bullshit that was created for you to believe in. So you wouldn't be able to create something out of nothing to go against what they taught you to believe in. I'm just saying, you was never taught to believe the creator in you is you willing to do what's right. I mean, what's straight. Because I told you, it's two rights. And I'm always think about what I say. Because I know one thing about technology. As fast as it is, when I'm using it, I can slow it down to my pace. Because by me not being able to read or write, I don't have something like someone else's story that I read to say or talk about. So therefore, I give the glory to the creator of all stories. Because I know the creator is in me and you and everything that moves without batteries or remote control. But we are the greatest creations of all. We are the conscious thinking human living here, living out a conscious thinking journey together, not one together, together, because two is better than one. Let me give you the real reason why two is better than one. Two is better than one when a creator has no hands and the creator is in you with two hands to work to get the job done. So just think, if you, the man, gets back into the woman as one, then you are the divine creator and you are straight in love, going straight to create out of love for everyone in the whole circle of life. I'm just saying, come on people, pick up vibrations.